Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show.
Star Trek. The next generation is beaming aboard the airwaves. All the wonder, the excitement, the drama of Gene Roddenberry's original Space Odyssey.
Welcome to the Enterprise.
With all-new adventures from the 24th century. With an all-new Enterprise.
This is nothing like any vessel I've seen before.
And an all-new crew. Starfleet veteran Captain Picard, Commander Riker, Executive Officer, Chief Medical Officer Crusher, and her brilliant son, Wesley, Lieutenant Commander Data, an android, the telepathic Troy, Security Officer Yar, Geordi, a man with unique vision, and Klingon Officer Worf.
Shields and deflectors up, sir.
Go to yellow alert.
Their continuing mission to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Let's see what's out there.
Don't miss the all-new television adventures of Star Trek, The Next Generation.
I was haunted by my past. But now I have a mission. I will do what needs to be done.
Who are you looking for?
Someone who has no one else to help her.
Find the truth. What have you gotten yourself into, Jean-Luc?
There we go.
There we go.
Push the red button.
Yeah, right. Push the red button.
Revving speed.
Right.
For those who can't listen, there's a Skype or Zoom option that says meeting is now being recorded, and we are just guffawing at how cliche it sounds.
Right. Hitting the big old red button, man, making sure it's ready.
Absolutely. So, welcoming aboard for the Voyages in a non-Peter Graves type narration voice. We got TikToker, track blogger, Curtis Colon. How are you?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We got track panelist and streamer, Barbara MacDonald. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
These are the voyages of a podcast that's gone into a different kind of Twilight Zone.
I'm happy. I'm excited.
But seriously, we are covering the Next Gen era, also known as the first spinoff in that seemingly non-ending Roddenberry era, and how we're going to talk about the careers, we're going to talk about the themes, we're going to talk about seasons and its place in pop culture, and whether or not it's the best of all the spinoffs. Heated discussion.
Yeah, right. Trigger warnings ahead.
Trigger warning. Feelings will be hurt, and
right.
people will be relocated to other planets, and hopefully we can beam, I don't know, can we beam a COVID cure in this day and age? Hopefully there's something in the human replicator.
Man,
We're working on it. We're absolutely working on it.
Absolutely. If I had to pick a doctor to be working on the cure, I would pick Mrs. Crusher, man.
There you go.
She's determined.
Get Norse Okinawa and all those other people in there.
I'm telling you, they got the luxurious and the time. They'd be up in the lap of luxury on the Enterprise D.
Can you test it on Barclay first, just to be safe?
That's not just to be safe. That is not just to be safe. No. That could go poorly.
Right, you have to catch the man first. He'll put you in a holodeck, have the crew over here holding you up.
True, fair enough. So
man, talking about Barkley, he is
poor guy.
the person that that too. But the man that plays him, I wish I knew his name. I should have looked him up.
Dwight Schultz from A-Team.
Thank you. He played an amazing character. That's now this miraculously intelligent person that is so insecure about what he knows and how he knows it, and he just like kind of stumbles around everything he does. But at the end of the day, his brilliance is unmatched. And I don't know. He's close to my heart. I love me. I'll throw hands at Barkley.
Barkley is on my list of favorite people as well. I didn't appreciate him on my first watch through as an 8-year-old, right?
I didn't know what to make of him. I was like, okay, this insecure guy.
What's wrong with this guy?
Right, I agree.
Glad that isn't me.
Fire the man. Why is he on the ship? Like,
yeah, why did they put up with this guy was really what I was thinking.
Yes.
And it became crystal clear to me that there was something in the Star Trek future that was missing here. How folks who are a little bit different didn't necessarily land in my regular classroom when I was in 8th grade. Those people were somewhere else. But then in Star Trek future, people who were a little bit different could contribute. Like, I don't know, Geordi, for example. And a few others that I can think of.
Geordi being born blind, Picard having an artificial heart.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Miles O'Brien having PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the most real. He's my favorite character of all the people.
Oh yeah,
Miles O'Brien. He's a man's man.
He was the main connection to DS9, and then Worf kind of finalized that, and then it's like, I mean. It made sense that all these guys can go anywhere at any time, and the story can revolve around them. There's enough of an arc, and it's not just the writers writing for the actor at that point. It is just there's enough of a character foreplay they can do with the interconnection with whatever's going on. And like you say, it is probably the biggest. This was definitely the first show where it's like I'm down with to follow any of these people around.
So I'm gonna be a little honest, right? I started watching Star Trek during the pandemic last year. Started in September. Now, I will say this. I have watched nothing for the past year and a half but Star Trek and Star Trek related phenomenon. So I've gone on like Star Trek and on YouTube and watched nothing but the conventions that happen, all the little interviews and everything like that.
Great stuff.
Yo, man, it's been a lot of Trek. Wow.
Curtis, you've made some excellent choices with your life. I can already tell.
Yes. So after I watched Next Generation, it was all of the cons and interviews with all those people. And
great stuff.
With each one, man.
Always saw a bunch of them even during college. We're talking, late 2000s, early 2010s, and it was just like, okay, so these guys are always going to be mocked or parodied in some fashion, and I would always just light up like, Ensign Rowe.
I ended up realizing I just wanted to find out what the hype was about. Because I'm a big nerd when it comes to anime, video games, and that culture.
They do kind of have an anime kind of feel. It's just it's a good point.
It's a good, and I was just like, you know what, man, I have nothing else to do. I'm stuck in my house, either going to work or coming home. Let me find out what the hype was about. And it looks like I kind of walked in and said, this is my first day watching Star Trek. And the next time I walk in, I'm in full clean on attire. Kapla! So, so I don't.
Perfect.
It's been, I do love me. There's just too many. The outlook is too good to ignore.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant thing to say. The outlook is too good to ignore. I, during the pandemic, needed something other than my day job, which is infectious disease. So I was a little bit busy, and things got a little
hectic,
stressful.
Something imaginary.
There was a problem. I had to deal with it. Still have to deal with it. Thing. And so I needed something aside from that. So I decided, and yes, my boss has heard this story. I've told it many times, but it was the middle of the workday, and I said I need a break. So I sat down. I did what you do, which is doom scroll on Facebook. And then there was this meme, and it was 7 of 9. She's got her cheesecake saying, "It's 7 of 9 day. You may now commence worship." Now this was July. That's not 7 of 9 days. 7 of 9 days in September. But I forgive that person because they made something incredible happen.
Right.
I sat down. I said, I got 45 minutes. I'm taking 45 minutes for me to go watch Voyager, because I love Voyager. I pushed the go button on whatever Netflix handed to me. And it took 2 minutes for me to go from everything is awful to what's in the future and what could the future be and how can we create it? How do we build it? Yep. From there,
right?
I thought, I got to share this. Everybody needs the peace of mind that I just got. The whole world is angry. The whole world is afraid. What if Star Trek, right? But what if Star Trek? So I got on the horn of my buddies on Facebook, said, anybody who wants in, reply in Klingon. Well, they did. And a few months later, we had a website. And a few months after that, we launched. And we have monthly events, and we're a community. And we run conventions on occasion. And we're just about to boot up Star Trek Science Sundays, in which we're going to have scientists come and talk about their favorite episodes and have conversations.
Oh, perfect.
It's a whole thing. We've got an organization, a global organization going on. And we're doing science too, because I'm a nerd. So.
Right. I remember even when the Abrams films were coming out, and I've seen so many people's like, "Oh yeah, I used to watch the shit out of that as a kid. My dad was a Captain Kirk guy. I thought Picard was cool. Yeah, Troy was hot as fuck. And it's like it's all that stuff, and it's like, wow, I didn't know we could talk about this. I always got booed away by the Star Wars fans, and it's like, Jesus, okay, I'm not talking about this with you because I'm a cinema guy first. So I love everything. I want to see anything that Industrial Light and Magic has worked on. I want any of these movies people have talked about, see what the hype's all about, see if I relate to it and blown away by it. And much like that, like you say, it's just so funny how some of these episodes mean totally different things to the millennial crowd. Is like, guys, I meant something different back then, or you do realize this was a thing. This was before iPhone and all this other stuff where you had all the touch screens, and it is funny how you'll be watching a random movie and you'll instantly say, didn't they do something like this on X-Files? Are they in a holodeck? Is someone gonna just shut this operation down? Or is a predator or alien type marine gonna burst in and save them from unstoppable force? And is there going to be a Hellraiser type demon? It's just you never know what to expect, and it is kind of the basis of a lot of these cultures. This in Twilight Zone, because I'm sure, Barbara, you're going to ask a follow-up question. Okay, so you can speak Klingon, but can you speak Elf? From Elven language from Lord of the Rings.
Vulcan Elvish from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't actually speak either one. I have not been.
I don't think any of us
spend
can.
my time doing it. I have to. I'm probably losing my.
If I remember correctly, Vin Marash Tash Mira Mark und Sira is complete gibberish. I'm just messing with y'all. I'm sorry.
You did good. So.
Mumbo jumbo, E.T. Brute.
It's only because today I started rewatching the. I wanted to take a break from Star Trek and started watching Lord of the Rings. But
nice.
You make good choices.
I'm trying. My kid over here watches Star Trek with me. He comes in. He's 5. He'll come in and ask me hey, I want to watch Star Trek, and that's just.
That's parenting done right. Is what that is.
That's why I'm excited for Prodigy. I'm very excited.
Me too. I can't wait.
Yeah,
totally. And layering this all, like you say, it is kind of funny how everyone reacts at a different time, let alone at different times in your life. It's like, I used to hate that episode growing up. The episode's kind of touching this time. I rewatched it on the 5th viewing.
Once you view it a couple times, you get to watch Star Trek. You watch it a couple times. That first run through is like you're kind of blown away. You don't get to really see what's going on, the intricacies of what's
going on. Totally.
So once you get to your 4th run through, you start to kind of get see the little in the beginning first seasons of TNG. If you notice, Data's eye contacts are 2 different shapes.
I never thought of that, but I'm sure I would see it.
I have a really nice 4K television, so watching it, I zoomed in and went, wait a minute.
Someone had a blooper, yeah, and I was even having to tell a few fans the other day. I'm like, you do realize they have Blu-rays of similar shows like Stargate and Expanse. I'm like, they do? I thought it was DVD or streaming only. I'm like, nope, it's out there. And I drove my sister crazy. She's like, if we're gonna watch this, just show me a Star Trek episode I haven't seen. I'm like, kind of in a Babylon 5 mood, and they're too busy Red Dwarf making fun of how cheesy the effects are. I'm like, I'm a B movie guy, so I'm used to that. So it doesn't phase me.
I agree with what you said earlier. Anything that's been done by Industrial Light and Magic, kind of pretty much all about it. They're
see what they can do.
Yeah, well, their creativity is just on another level, man. People come up with great things.
And the fact that there is this whole rivalry, I'm like, they worked on both Track and Wars and made both epics. So what's the problem?
What's the problem here? Right.
Yeah, there is no problem. That all is manufactured. It's perfectly acceptable and delightful to like all the things.
It's Romulan propaganda.
Yes, it's Romulan propaganda.
It is Romulan propaganda. So you see, I am a Star Trek fan, but I'm also
sent by a crooked Federation. Oh, there you go. Nice blaster.
Yeah.
So,
why can't we like both? I saw one person getting into an argument on Mandalorian kicking Picard's ass. I'm like, bullshit. I watched it both.
Hold on. Look, man, we can't. You see, I try not to get into those conversations. The Federation versus the Empire, because they don't. The Federation will win, but that's what.
Depends on who's running.
Depends on.
Deep Space Nine can totally kick the Death Star's ass. I'm just saying.
Man, transporter technology. What are we talking about? I'm going to transport all of the personnel of a starship. Your Star Destroyer, I'm going to transport everyone 2 inches to the left just to prove a point.
Thank you. And I mean, I would much rather be a red shirt because I get to have an overdramatic death as opposed to a guy in a suit who is a clone of somebody who died centuries ago, all that shit.
And you want to talk about a funny joke. So a red shirt and a stormtrooper come up against each other. They both fire, they both miss, and both die anyway.
and then Henchman Al Leon from Lethal Weapon and Die Hard just shows up, and then he dies. But yeah.
Yes.
So, Barbara, what channel did you constantly like be watching this on? Was it like UPN, Spike TV, or Sci-Fi Channel, or HNI?
Only one of those existed. So I think we're about to age ourselves here, and that's okay because I think we have to embrace who we are and how we are in the world. And I feel a little bit even tiny weird about it. So here's the deal: UPN wasn't born at the time I started watching Star Trek, and neither was the rest of those.
Nice.
So I started watching Trek when I was 8. It was about 8, maybe a little earlier. But anyway, it was TNG was in its run, and what I want to say about that is that. It was a thing we did as a family, one of the few shows we were allowed to watch because my parents were very adamant that we were not going to be raised by the TV. But nature with George Page, now I'm really dating myself, and Star Trek were things we were allowed to watch.
Nice.
Anybody who knows George Page, dude, I miss you, man.
Either that or him or Richard Attenborough narrating PBS and Animal Planet.
Right?
Everyone, you can now go to Google, look at these things up.
And I recommend you do because George Page
does not.
Anyway, so Star Trek, me, 8 years old, I'm looking at the screen, and one of my first real concrete memories that I can reach back and grab is Worf. And I, as an 8-year-old, realized that there was something I wanted in my life, and that was honor. Now, 8-year-old me didn't know what honor was. Right? But
all these big words.
There was something about him that just blew my little mind, and I finally figured out later what it was, and that was that Worf knew who he was, had principles, and stuck to them. He had honor, and I couldn't name it as honor then, but finally when I realized that he was himself and wasn't going to be blown this way or that by what other people thought. He was a person who was, the strength was inside, regardless of whatever he looked like or how much of a movie monster he may have appeared on screen. The guy's strength was on the inside. And that was what I wanted. And so this tiny little frame was mystified by why I wasn't going to grow up and be an enormous Klingon. I did not, but on the inside, my heart.
Right. You could have been one of the Sarah sisters.
Your heart awesome. Your heart Kalis. No, for sure.
Heart of Kalis. Yes, like that.
I definitely I cannot agree with you more.
So there you go.
Such an amazing. Seeing that man when I only watched it a year ago. When I saw that man walk onto the set with this energy around him, this sureness, this steadfastness to understanding duty, honor, glory, and loyalty was something that was so mesmerizing to me to see in such a pure state of it. He had. I wanted to see him and Tasha Yar get into something, but that's another conversation.
Right.
Because that
wrong. That's perfectly legit.
Thank God they brought her back.
Right, they brought her back.
Travel can do so many things.
Look, no one's dead in Star Trek.
Right. No.
Except Jadzia Dax, but we won't go there.
Even the
no, we ain't gonna go there because I have a whole look. Well, that's the other podcast. Trust me.
Absolutely.
A whole hour and a half conversation about how wrong they were for that whole thing. And don't get me wrong, Desiree was cool.
I love Desiree.
Right, love Desiree.
Everyone badmouths hell, even the next finale, and I don't mind it. I think that's a perfect way to end the show, as opposed to just
because she was just great. Me and her and Worf could have had another kid. I'm getting off topic.
No, it's fine. I mean, I always had my issues with the other spinoffs, but I came around to them after a while because you want to give it its full due and see what you're like.
I think I got lucky because of how late I got into Star Trek. Because there's a lot of the people that don't know how they felt about the fandoms. Me coming into it, it's all Trek. It's all Starfleet. Because that's in Star Trek. That's what drives me to it so much is Starfleet. The humans want to explore and in one of the books, a Klingon general names the humans as untethered maniacs.
Absolutely on the money, because you got all the bureaucrats and you got all the guys who don't know how they want to run it.
Well, because humans aren't doing it to themselves no more. They're doing it to other people. Like,
right?
They're being humans to other people, and other people are like, "What are you guys doing? Why are we?" Something as simple as why are we hiding in a dark room?
It makes one want to teleport.
We're gonna jump up and yell.
Can we teleport a new cranium into that head of yours? It's just
right.
It's just like all the technology that still is unexplored that they still have to figure out, and it's just so wild how people can laugh now at the references they're making. Is like, you have to realize they've been in this universe, they're studying old timelines, old tropes, old figure of speeches, and the Klingons are a Shakespearean kind of people trying to make sense of anything.
Anything, right? They're like,
that's
what
how
are these
behind me
talking about? And it's Starfleet, man. So, like I said, it was easier for me. I never saw them as different entities. Starting with TNG is where I started. It was just, so the next one is DS9. Oh, the next one is Voyager.
They really are all connected, and it's
they're all
just
the same.
What storyline? There's all the same kind of formulas they're going to follow. Some of it's fanfare, and some of it was, them trying to be true to,
exactly
what Gene was wanting to do, and it didn't help that Gene's lawyer decided to kind of rewrite some of the writers in earlier days, and Rick Berman didn't really know what made it special, and so it was like, well, but fortunately, Michael Piller at least is a good writer, and it makes sense. He and Ira Stephen Barr were big baseball fans, and that's pretty much how they organized each writing room. It's a baseball game. How are we going to win this time? How are we going to get a home run?
Right.
Who's going to lose something? Who's going to get put in timeout?
I had a question for both of you. So, talking about TNG, what outfits did you like the best? The first 2 to 3 seasons, I believe, or was it the ending ones where they had the top jackets and not the full suit?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I've never been a fan of the unitard. I think the whole one piece thing. Just that looks so uncomfortable. It looks like you're being strangled to death slowly by tribbles or something.
So
depends on the episode.
Right. Depends on the episode. So I agree with you that Barbara, I was not a big fan of the leotard either. It was very cool when they came up with the jackets. But like I said, did a bunch of diving and come to find out that the reason why they switched them was because Picard went to his chiropractor and doctor and told him that because Gene wanted them so tight, he wanted it so pressed and so clean, the outfits were 2 sizes too small. Had them doing what you said, Barbara, kind of folding in on themselves. Yeah. So it was either change the suits or get a lawsuit. Sir Patrick Stewart wasn't playing games.
And so wild how we remember those minor characters. We remember the barber. We remember the other psychologists and other doctors. It was like even Norman Lloyd's character, who's like a 90-year-old man, he's playing at that point. There's Picard's mentor, and we got all this stuff you remember other stuff, other key guest spots on other shows, but it's like, but this is a whole different thing. It's like, you're set for life. I've seen you on this show, I've seen pretty much a lot of cool performances that you've done.
Man, Sir Patrick Stewart, that man is he's my favorite.
Always. And
acting wise, he brought so much poise to that bridge. So much. I don't know how to say. He just brought so much to it.
And thank goodness for those who were able to escape this versus those who kind of just disappeared after this. Only would do like 5 TV guest spots a year.
Right.
And it made sense when they did the comeback. Last year with Picard, with doing the whole, already everyone came back for the most part. And
how do you guys feel about Picard?
I had no complaints. I thought it made sense to bring Picard back.
I don't like what they. So everyone to say, I don't like what they did to Egypt. Egypt was my man. I was very much a fan of Egypt, and when they came up on him just kind of getting dissected, I was like, "Oh, my boy! Oh no!"
Poor guy.
I will never be old enough for that scene. Not ever in my life. It just was too much for me, and it always will be.
Yeah,
that is the only thing that really didn't work for me about that. And I'm not known for complaining about Trek. It's not a thing I like to do.
I agree.
And I will say that scene was a bit much, you guys.
Yeah,
it was a bit much.
It was a bit. I agree. It was a bit much.
Yeah.
I wanted because there were so many emotions. Like I saw his pips. That boy became the commander of a starship. Like he did what he set out to do. What they trained him to do. He did that. And I would have liked to have seen that. But no, I got to see my operating. And it was hard. That was like I paused it after that. Like after that episode, I had to walk away for a little bit.
There's a lot to take in. It did get by the emotion. I thought the emotion was earned at least. It was like, okay, they're showing a darker yet still up to date world.
Well, Picard's he's not the same person. He's a little bitter.
And now he's becoming a cyborg. Yeah.
Right, I know, right?
Yeah,
because that's how I'll live.
I like the approach that they took. The old admiral that didn't know how to put it down.
That's just it. Yeah, they need him, and then he's like.
No, I believe Picard was an admiral when he retired.
I didn't quite hear you right now.
Not a problem.
Right. And then to just see these guys, they're doing all this other science, and I dug some of the new guys, like the new ship captain, who's basically a Han Solo type, and then Rafik.
Yeah, I can't disagree. He's super cool. I'm not gonna lie. All of his EMHs are awesome too. His holograms are all great. Yeah, they're all great. I like the talking about the ships. I like the control system for that ship. It's incredibly cool.
Oh yeah, kudos.
Yeah, to whoever created that, I definitely agree. That was a cool interface for a ship.
I totally felt Picard in the later part of the season where I haven't flown in a while. Could you just be quiet while I do this, or else? Thinking, yeah, you know what? I got you.
I got you on that, right?
Geezer, I'm getting up there.
But hey, I want to talk about the evolution of Picard himself, and I'm gonna say a couple personal things, but then I want to hear what you all have to say about it. Picard, because I did grow up with it, was essentially a parent, like another parent that I had. I had mom and dad, and then I had Captain Picard. And then if he was a parent, Janeway was a role model. So he kind of trained me, and then I became Janeway, which, well, whatever. We can talk about that at another time. But what happened later was with the show, Star Trek Picard, it was everything I was looking for to make Picard go from godparent, if you will, to human being. Because as a child, I was looking up at him a long, long way, and I couldn't see his dimension as a human being as a kid. And so when we get to Picard and we get to see what it is that his life has done to him as a person, as a human, for me that's touching and moving. And I was right there with him as he struggled with having been sitting on his butt for 20 years, having given up. I know that I think I've heard from other fans that that really was so difficult for them to accept and to think about, and that they were kind of upset that that's the choice they chose to take. And for me, that was so real and so raw. And I was right there for it. And with the exception of Icheb, and maybe a couple other odds and ends, I loved Picard and can't wait for more. So, all right, folks. So the question we were talking about was, how do you feel about the evolution of his character between the Next Generation and Star Trek Picard?
I'll let Curtis go first.
Again, I like everything you said before. I totally agree. They did the writers did a very good job of portraying a military man that has not only been a military man, but it has been a military man of renown, of rank, and with all of that came with a lot of privilege. And we saw a man that was retired and didn't know how to put it down. And he had about 20 or so years, like you said, to sit there and ponder all of his actions, not necessarily all of his mistakes, and go through every single thing he's done. And after also being in charge of the failed attempt to rescue and help the Romulans, they portrayed a man that was deeply had a lot of regret at what he did. I agree with you. Picard, for me, so to get personal, I've never met my father. So,
oh man.
He was Picard was really, like I said, I found him last year, was something that I wanted to strive for, something I wanted to look forward to, because he was a man that was able to find the third option when A and B was not acceptable. And he would use that where it's not acceptable. We're going to draw the line here. We're going to put my foot down here, because what's happening is not going to go down. And he brought so much grace. A man that can show emotion, but was still shown to be regarded. Selected people seeing that struggle, a man's struggle, was when he was in TNG. He was a god. That man seemed like he could almost do no wrong. And watching him in Picard was satisfying, because I got to see that it's even great men have great choices and great regret, and that someone Picard has so much wisdom, so much insight in TNG.
Like every track captain, he's going to have supernatural gods. Janeway's going to take down the Borg and other supernatural entities. Archer's going to be encountered by Men in Black. Cisco is going to be encountered by the Prophets, and Kirk is going to have some other voice that he's going to ask for Spock's help on how do I kick his ass and take his woman,
Right.
And
so it was
Picard was just the gentle, is like, I will give you what you want, but only on my terms, And
he was a very on my terms kind of guy.
He is the granddad who has a wonderful cookout, but makes sure that you are happy and that you are well nourished, and at the same time that everything is left the way it is, and that everybody goes to bed with a full stomach, But at the same time, like you say, he does have that kind of just like, you feel pain, and it's not something you got from Patrick Stewart's other roles, and even as Professor X and X-Men. It's like, and this wasn't any other kind of show. This was their career, so they were just like, hey, we're gonna do it as good as we could ever, if not as good as the first time. And the fan base is what matters. So if you like it, hell, let's party. Let's show where he can go. Let's assemble his new crew, since everyone's in a different direction now at this point in their lives. It only makes sense. And how does he figure out how this cyborg gal is related to Data, and how do we give him a proper closing, after the like it or hate it of Nemesis? So it's like, let's warp speed. Let's solve this part of this puzzle. And if this is our final year, let's make it our final year. And if not, let's make it our second to last awesome final year. It's just that Akiva Goldsman had always wanted to be involved with the Trek universe, and he just never had. He had made a cameo appearance as one of the Romulans in the 2009 movie, but he just was always doing like it or hate it movies, and won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind. And I think Mind is a perfect point. This is totally cerebral, just going into. And what's your take on counter question? I don't mean to keep doing this. On one of the other Soong related scientists that Brent Spiner gets to do a dual role with.
I just want to say that if your last name is Soong, we got to watch out for you. Every song was crazy.
And funny enough,
in one way or another, they were all nuts.
Yeah, they were frightening people, in my opinion. Data's dad was a scary dude.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
Union Sung was.
It's kind of like very much. It made sense why they tied him in with Khan's people on Enterprise. It's like, yeah, these people were all just renegades, kind of radical environmentalists, scientists, if you could.
They were smart. They were smart.
Smart, too smart. Is like these are the guys who both use new technology and abuse it, and then at the same time do something else that just isn't going to get approved anyway, and so they're just going to continually kind of have the mix of terrorism, freedom fighting, renegade planets. It's like if Texas were to secede from the Union, it's that kind of political. Whereas just like we're seeing a lot of this day in and out. We're having scientists publish books and claim that the other is a liar in public, and it's shocking. And with this, I mean, there was a funny GalaxyCon live interview not too long ago where Brent Spiner said, I already knew the character, I wrote for him. So I fortunately, I'm a professional. It's not my first rodeo. So I had all my lines memorized, and I only had like 2 that I need Patrick to shout to me because I couldn't see. The makeup they put on me was so strong this time around that I was fucking blind so bad. And that's kind of, Michael Dorn did kind of hint at, is like, if he's coming back, you better give him a worthy storyline as Worf if he's going to put on all that fucking makeup. That's 5 hours.
8 hours. 8 hours. Ooh. 8 hours. So they on TNG, they would get in at 3 a.m. and would work until 11, 12 at night. You're not. I thought I had a different understanding of acting until I really got into TNG and understood what they were doing. I was like, what do you mean? You have 4 hours for what then? Drive home. You drive to the hotel or home, use the bathroom, eat something, call your wife, go to bed. Or take a nap and go back to work. And then that makeup again.
That was able to, even in many ways, that's how they were even able to get actors on certain sci-fi shows. They would always say no makeup required. That's what they said to Paul Mooney, is 1 hour makeup, promise. Promise. On Babylon 5. And
the prosthetics. My wife is a hairstylist and loves makeup as well. So very much into that, the prosthetics and horror makeup and movie makeup.
It really does all blend around, especially for those doing the horror and fantasy stuff. How much does it take for the Lord of the Rings, Freddy Krueger, Wishmaster guys? It's it takes a lot
of work, and I wasn't aware of the amount.
We just see the final product. It looks great, and we're like, yeah, you
we
just get that out of
the army of hairstylists that make all the elves.
There's a reason exactly millions.
It's my hat's off to those people, because they like Worf. Now again, if you watch it on 4K, you can see.
Did you ever see? You ever see that one convention appearance? I think it was 2012, maybe 2016. It was a historical one. Jonathan Frakes goes in the back. He plays Riker, and he asks all the stupid questions so that all the idiots who are tempted to ask it actually leave. Oh my God, Riker, did you go to sleep with so-and-so? It's like, oh my God, was that real? And so then he goes to the front, and then Michael Dorn starts actually answering real questions, and they're legit, but they have only just smart ass answers for it, because they are kind of,
at this point,
they're kind of out there. And one of them was like, what was the style of fighting you invented for the Klingon stance? And Michael Dorn was like, just like pressing the screens, we made it up as we went along.
Right.
Do you guys want the actual answer to that?
That was his actual answer. Is we made it up.
Yeah, but I mean, do you want the actual answer of where that came from and who designed it?
I'd be happy to. It looked like
the guy's name is Dan Curry, and he's quite a gentleman and a very nice man. He not only is the graphic artist who did Voyager's title sequence, he also is a martial artist in his own right, and designed the Klingon Batleth and the essentially the Klingon. Oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble here. Dojo? Can I say that? I don't know. That's probably the wrong word. Someone is gonna roast me for it. But
I'm martial artist. I've been practicing kung fu and different types of martial arts since I was 4.
That's why the fights were awesome. They looked like a mirror of today's reality.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. That whole double hit thing. Does not work.
No.
Yeah, Dan Curry's not responsible for that one. That's
for just dramatic purposes. It's just like when you see a cop getting in a suspect's face and playing to the camera. It doesn't happen in real life. It's just played for dramatic purposes. And it plays well to a camera, but it's like by the time you do this, you've already been impaled by the enemy.
I actually am thinking about buying a Batleth I really want to buy like a full size Batman because I like I said, I'm a martial artist, and I have wondered every time I see the go ahead and
sure you can get one of those. Yeah,
you're right. If I can, well, I'm thinking about buying a 3D printer. Thinking about 3D printing it. So.
I got one if you need me to send you some samples.
Oh, are you serious? That's super awesome.
At a college nearby.
It's a replicator. Like, or if we're gonna get down to
real life replicator.
Why do I not want one? Like,
totally. And this was kind of before Krav Maga was kind of becoming big on the scene. But yeah, you're seeing kind of a mix of street fighting, even with all the other, aliens. It's like,
a lot of the boom.
Yeah, even just the Vulcan symbol is just like, it's like. Technically, he's cutting off circulation, so it's not a far stretch. It could be somewhat effective.
The Vulcan pitch is a thing. Too funny, man. I love me some Vulcans. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do. My favorite species, personally, is a Trildo. I love the Trill species. On Star Trek Online that I play all the time, my main character is a Trill female. Something about having a.
Freezing up there.
Yeah, he's pretty well frozen. Shit. We might want to, if we don't have enough bandwidth, we can turn our videos off, and then we'll get a little bit more out of it.
Good idea. Done that. Can you see us now? Turning off.
And we'll just be a little bit patient. He'll come back.
Great. Yeah, your Dan Curry guy got the Visual Effects Society Award. So.
Dan Curry is an amazing person. And getting to know him and finding him to be absolutely fabulous.
A lot of editors and graphics people can be pretty awesome. We just kind of, that's why I hate when only like the director of like a Pixar movie is on it. I'm like, no, it's a team effort. If you're on the crew, you're awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't treat it like a school assignment where you give credit to one guy who and the 3 other people slacked off and got credit only.
Yeah, it really is quite the team effort. There's a little
a
couple of days ago with Dan. Somebody asked him. He said he was designing some stuff for upcoming work, and
wonderful.
they said they let you back after all that, and Dan says, "Of course they did."
I'm the only fucker who knows how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't say that though. He's too much.
I know he's too awesome, but it's just. It does get to that point where it's like, yeah, no, guys, listen here. These guys have been doing it for so many years, and they've earned the right. And I mean, he even got to direct a Next Gen episode. And so I guess as a good counterpoint, where do you see a lot of the influence for a lot of these shows? Like in terms of casting, character development, like I know it's on NCIS. That's kind of similar kind of character crafting that they do, especially with even CSI. It's like that even had one of the same writers. It's like these guys are a family. Work is what brings them together, and without romanticizing it, and they get to know one another. They're so close. And I mean, obviously we talked before we started on 24 how that had its own kind of system of rules, and a lot of the cast were such big track fans that they even got a lot of the same track cast and crew to appear on there once in a while and do a lot of the same kind of similar stuff. And I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing the Captain Picard or Janeway or even Kirk trope where Captain must go down to the planet. Well, second in command. Like I saw that with the last ship. Everybody's a walking target, and the captain goes down to the island and stops the invasion with an away team. It's like it's all there. You see it whether you want to or not. It's like everybody has a red shirt. Everyone has a alien race that they can't bargain with. You got the Expanse, even those Riddick movies, which are talking about various colonies and
Riddick.
Well, I'll tell you, with regard to cross-pollination between Trek actors and their other work, and I found Orange is the New Black to be very difficult to watch because of my attachment to Janeway. And
she's on that show.
I'm just
older gal.
I was so deeply impacted by. It was difficult for me to separate Janeway from Red, and to think, I don't know, there was some emotional something that just went in me, and I just couldn't
Totally.
I couldn't relax. Like it wasn't, something wasn't right here. It had nothing to do with Kate at all. Kate's brilliant. We all know that.
Yeah, I couldn't get into that show.
And my attachment to Janeway that made it difficult. And I have to say, I loved her work as Red. It's absolutely brilliant. And I had so much trouble with it because I just wasn't able to.
It's a pretty gritty show,
I guess.
So, yeah.
It was more than I was ready to handle, given my attachment to Janeway.
Well, and that's what I also don't like is when someone suggests a show and is like, well, what kind of a show is it? Before you pitch me why I should watch it.
Yeah, is this something that would actually be appropriate for?
Will I actually watch this kind of show? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Curtis, before the freeze, so where did we lose yet?
I'm trying to remember too because it just stopped for no reason. Now it's back to full power. So I think what in the world was that?
It's often the video every once in a while is just it's too much power even for a damn even when you got high speed internet it's just stupid.
Right. I agree. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. We're talking about the Batleth. We were talking
about Dan Curry.
Yep.
Yes, Dan Curry, guest director, visual effects animator turned supervisor on all the shows.
The man did an amazing job. 100% did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and for my uncle, who was a huge sci-fi guy, would always talk about is like, yeah, you do realize the Next Generation, Enterprise D, that's all filmed upside down. That's why you can see it so clearly. You wouldn't get that with all the shadows and other lighting. It's like, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Facts.
And the fact that I
Dan
always
was talking the other day about it was Wednesday. Anyway, we were talking about what is the actual production value for a Trek episode these days, and how much do these things actually cost? And someone was like, "Oh, it costs $10 million." No, now it costs $6.5. It costs, I think he said $2.5.
So true.
TNG, and he was talking about making Galaxy's Child, the space whale, and he said, yeah, there were times when I was making models out of shampoo bottles, thinking, Dan, you put shampoo bottles in front of me on a screen and it looked grand.
Right.
Right.
And the fact that the most atypical kind of way you create this is like everyone just thinks it's all just a green screen and a model is like, oh, it's way more than that. You gotta decide what part of the frame you're gonna animate and all that. And he's like, this was before digital, guys. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, before Dan was telling us that he likes or he liked very much the old style special effects where you had to get really creative. For example, some guy, I've forgotten what he was saying he was working on, but a film project he was working on had been out in the sun a bit. And so they essentially got a nylon stocking to put over the camera so that it would be a little bit less in focus and you wouldn't see quite the amount of sun damage on the actor's face. And I thought, of all things, I would not have imagined a nylon stocking as a visual effects tool.
You get creative when you need to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really just kind of electrifying just seeing how these are the storytellers. And it's like too often you would see people work on a big large scale movies who kind of weren't ready to become storytellers. They're just the visual storyteller, and I think these guys were very fortunate where they were able to get a lot of very long lasting gigs. And I talked about how a lot of their later stuff that they were able to do, like Ira Steven Bird did the 2000s version of Twilight Zone as well as the Dead Zone and Alphas, and I forget his name, this one Indian writer who did a lot of the Data episodes later became the head writer of CSI, kind of had that same kind of family appeal. And all of them had kind of pretty just lovely careers in many ways because a lot of them got into directing, especially Paris on Voyager and Jonathan Frakes. And have you guys ever heard how he's often called two takes Frakes?
Yeah, I have heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I'm so glad I'm not the only one because it seems like it comes up a lot and I don't see it listed anywhere. So I'm like, great. Because he's very...
The man knows how to direct him some Star Trek. Everyone that has had to play a role while he's directing City, he knows how to get into it. He knows how to talk to him. He knows how to
exactly.
Yeah, they say he knows how to flow in that aspect.
And it's just so awesome seeing the research he did back in the day, how he was inspired by Ridley Scott and James Cameron movies. He got the cinematographer of Strange Days, Matthew F. Leonardi, who had also worked as like assistant camera on Star Trek 2, as well as, you know, Poltergeist. And he had that guy come down and just study the filming of Voyager and Deep Space Nine. Is like, this is how we're going to make that movie, you know, a little known movie called First Contact. Look on the big screen, you know? And Leonardi totally bit. He's like, we got to make that. We got to give them that look and not make them feel like we're seeing just totally different kind of movie. We got to get all the cramped hallways, the, you know, invasion of a ship going. We got to have great speeches, very well focused. And it's career security too, because they knew instantly they'd totally get typecast from this point on. It's like, well, we want to, so they were doing, he and Torres, actress Roxanne Dawson, and all the other guys were just always just getting offered the ability to direct episodes and, you know, just making time to study when they weren't in their trailers, you know, or with their family memorizing their lines for the next day. So, and that is that rare kind of confidence. And we talked about other track parodies, I think, before we started, like Galaxy Quest and Orville. And a lot of those guys, same kind of deal. You ask them, how did you create that? And they're like, we trusted each other.
Right.
And that's all you got to do. And these guys, oh, totally. And it helps that, yeah, Next Gen, I mean, they knew they had a lot of competition. Some of them weren't familiar with this. Some of them were like, this is a big, large-scale show. You should give it your all. You won't get something like this again. And obviously, you're going to have people who are coming in who are like, this isn't at all like, you know, my granddad's track, you know? And it's like, so do you feel like track is like one of the few fandoms where a lot of the toxic fans often exit stage right, you know, like the ones who are just want to do the whole what's the best era is like, we can like it all.
So since I'm on TikTok a lot, man, I see a lot of the negative, I guess, side of the fandom, because some people are really like that. Some people are very much into only TOS, which is the original Star Trek series. And
I know they've never seen anything else, so it's like, well, your opinion is mute.
It's mute, right?
You can't say it sucks if you haven't seen it.
So there's some people that only watch Next Generation and TOS, and it's like I sit there and I go, so are you okay with an incomplete story? I can't fathom that. Like, I watch Star Trek at this point all the way through all of them because they all tell a complete story. But like I said, on TikTok there are a lot of people that they'll die on the hill for DS9. They will die on the hill for DS9.
I've seen that too, and it's just like, well, I mean, and you know, we've seen it with Voyager. I've even seen Enterprise. People were getting into that when track was becoming oversaturated. You know, they were already getting into, you know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Matrix, and it's like, yeah, that came out at that time when, you know, track, I don't want to say it didn't know what it wanted to be. It just kind of had to keep changing its audience, keep finding a new flow. And it's like, I watched Enterprise a lot, even though I was very frustrated with it, but I saw the later seasons. I really dug those compared to the earlier seasons. And it's like, not every track has a sharp season, but that's the beauty of it. You'll still find some part of it you might like.
Enterprise took me a little bit, but I end up falling in love with it, honestly.
Yeah.
By the end, I ended up falling in love with it.
Well, same thing with Discovery. I saw the pilot and I didn't care for much for it, but I binged the first season.
Right. I'm going to tell you, I actually was really cool, really happy about Discovery. I'm wondering what they're going to do about it. Like, if all the other stuff we've heard about, like the Section 31 series, or
I hope that comes to fruition, because yeah,
I agree with that.
And I think the other thing is, it's kind of an atypical kind of track, because it's like, it's just a more free-spirited track, and not everyone's used to that. They like to just fall around the first free, and it's like, guys, you got to free yourselves out, because Next Gen, who didn't like most of the people here? I mean, I'll even confess, I like Wesley, and everyone loves to give him.
I like Wesley. The only thing I didn't like about Wesley was when he decided to be a bitch. Like, there was no reason. There was no reason he had to go do all that nonsense. He just became. I don't know what the writers fucked him a little bit, in my opinion, because there was.
Will Wheaton would often complain because he wouldn't get along with some of the directors, like Rob Bowman, who worked later on Castle and X-Files. He's like, Bowman would often baby him a lot.
Right,
kid,
like
out
he
of the
didn't know
way.
what he was doing. Like, he's also really, I don't know, Will Wheaton is like,
He's just an awesome dude, and,
he's an awesome
I light
guy.
up each time I see him in a movie or a cartoon voiceover. I'm like, I see what you did there, buddy.
I watched a lot of I think it's called The Ready Room on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's his story. Like, after you figure out like what's going on, like what he went through as a child actor. It's like,
He repeated his questions a few times, but yeah, Frank's was really complimentary of him. It's just like the dude just makes all these guys open up. These guys wouldn't have opened up for, say, Today America or anything
right,
else. Yeah,
right. No, he gets down because he was there. He gets down to the gritty. He knows how to interview those people. But like, it was said on when he was interviewing Jonathan Frakes, and
he really is legit what I consider a geek.
Yeah, he's because
even before the Twitter and all that other fandom is like, no, he was always good at just kind of being a smart ass without seeming like a snob. You know, he knew how to just kind of channel that, and I kind of felt like it was like, okay, well, what they're going for, the writers are going for, without being cliche, is they're going for young man who's, you know, hasn't had much of a childhood, who's trying to find out how to be of importance, and of course, you know, his options are very limited since he's being judged based on how young he is, how he's got to figure out what he wants to do, and it is kind of like Riker's brief promotion consideration. It's like they had to write some of it out because it's like, well, how long do we want this show to go before we decide that every show lasts 7 seasons? You know?
Facts, man.
Have you guys been listening to Gates McFadden's Investigates podcast? You've been listening to her?
No, it's awesome.
Okay, get on it.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on. I gotta write that down on my
Get
phone.
on it.
Investigates.
Investigates
so great on all those
phenomenal. So she's been I won't, no spoilers, but I'll tell you a little.
Right.
She has been talking to her space friends, as she calls them, including her space son.
Yes.
Our friend Will Wheaton that we've just been discussing.
Right.
And those episodes are in depth, thoughtful, touching, things I had no idea about. You really get a chance to get to know these people in ways I never thought I would get to know them.
Really?
And what is an absolute gift. Yeah,
she really does.
Gift.
Wow. I listened to the Delta Flyers back in the day. Yeah. So I gotta, not back in the day, a couple months ago, but yeah. So
she loves talking, especially to all. She loves especially talking to all the other doctors, like guys, Julia, Bashir, and it's like, and Picardo's, doctor, and it's like, but it's that's
love
cool.
Picardo. Richard Picardo is the man. I don't know what I want him to give. I want him to be my grandfather. I don't know. That man is.
He seems like a gentle giant. Yeah.
Well, he's just he can everything he did in Voyager. His opera singing, his artistic, like that's who he actually, he just played himself.
He can actually do that, yeah.
Like the doctor, the main doctor's personality was himself, but then you can see him when he became the bomb. When that intelligent bomb took over his intelligence, and he was a different person.
Well, and that's where I really dug how the spin-offs just didn't try to be, they were their own thing, but they didn't deny the world. It's like they had, Riker's, brother / clone, Thomas hijacked an Enterprise there one time, having Worf's brother Kern be given a death ritual. That was a neat connection, and just Voyager connecting 7 to 9 to Picard's board.
How does Starfleet let that happen? Can we talk about that? So you find out that a transporter malfunction makes a clone of yourself.
Right. So is he a real person or not?
Right. Regardless if he's a real person or not, because he's a real person, flesh and blood, soul.
Can we just put him on a house arrest and just go
So we're just going to reinstate him, and he's just gonna shave his beard, and he'll go by Tom, and it'll work out. What? There's 2 William T. Rikers. How does that work?
That needed a lot more exploration, and I sure would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen a few go rounds with that one, more than we got. We did get a couple.
That's when you know it's a good episode, when you want more.
But I would have liked to see them actually explore, the issues with William T. and Thomas, later as they are doing with Picard, because that kind of anyway, it would have been.
But that's when it's a good episode, when you want more.
Well,
and you want a more reference, like I wanted more than Nanites running rampant or being used as a weapon.
Well, so you said that brought up to my mind something else. But can we talk about all the little quote unquote babies the Enterprise ship has made? All the different types of entities or things that have come out of that ship itself.
All the stuff that other shows would make fun of is like that they never went to. It's like too much.
So they have a holodeck program that is trying to go to Vernaman City over here, trying to. It's like, and it's end up birthing.
I am not a merry man. Different episode, but similar.
But no, seriously, there's a whole bunch of things that emerge from the Enterprise as life forms.
As life forms, literal life forms.
Right, renegade holograms that had come to life. Yeah,
it's just so interesting how many times. So when they like another one was when that light being, that energy being came in and impregnated
Troy.
Mm-hmm. Like, that was insane. Like that was another insane. Like it was a highbrow moment. Like you have to understand what's going on right now. Like this, a being wanted to fully understand what it is to be a human, to have your existence, and they had to fight that whole situation. They were in the briefing room, trying to have a conversation about something that was ultimately had to happen for this being to experience true life in their sense, and it was. It was a moment for us to reflect on how amazing, like, our lives as humans are. We get to live this beautiful existence.
And how we explore things, and how other beings might explore things. There are a multitude of episodes of how are we as human beings out there in the universe exploring versus how is the universe exploring us. For example, Q is busily exploring humanity in all kinds of strange and wonderful and sometimes awful ways.
Well, exactly. And what is illegal versus fair freedom of speech. And I liked how they were able to have all these mature discussions of what is otherwise kind of a mirror of today's impossible to talk about discussions, you know? And so whenever you say you can't solve an argument, I'm like, well, I solved it on Star Trek.
Yeah, that is actually a very valid thing to say. Okay, well, if we can't deal with it here, we can potentially deal with it in science fiction, because it gives everybody enough space to step back and look at it without having their fingers mashed on the hot button all the time. Mm-hmm. It gives us an idea to see how something could be resolved if we did take our fingers off the hot button.
Oh, totally. And then there was sometimes rivalries between other fandoms. Is like, okay, I love all these sci-fi shows. I love Stargate. I love Lex. I love Odyssey 5. And I especially love Babylon 5 and Track because, you know, these guys are basically intergalactic space cops and explorers all rolled into one. And they have to flat out just compromise. And whether it's in a war room or whether it's in, you know, again, just we met a totally behind the times society. Do we tell them they're wrong, or do we just let them keep living their life, even though we know there's a tyrant or there's a scientist who's abusing his trust with them, basically making everyone his guinea pig without villainizing him? Yeah, the Prime Director is like, it's a good thing to stop by. I wish we could solve real world world wars that way. It's like, instead of just doing diplomacy and just ass kissing, is like with this, you know, we see how everybody wants to become something, and then they have the argument of, you know, how do they actually want to go about it?
Mm-hmm. There is many times in the in Star Trek Next Generation that it just really wanted to drive home the understanding of the sanctity of life. It was very interesting to me how they're with Data creating law. That was another powerful episode where it was just the want to procreate, and how Starfleet is a corporation like all the other ones.
Right, how we thought we were going to see B4, and that never materialized into much. It's like, yeah, no, lore was kind of interesting because you got, again, here, we don't want to see Data going rogue, so let's just see how he has a duplicate of him who's technically his brother and who went renegade, who did everything unimaginable. He's more intrusive than Q. So that's a good segue, you know. Q never allied with the Borg, he just showed them the Borg. Is Q an anti-hero, or is he a villain?
Well, hold on.
It's just funny.
Right, hold on now. I think Q Who, that the episode where he thrown them into the Delta Quadrant.
First episode I ever saw.
Right. It's probably one of the most important episodes in Star Trek.
Totally.
There was so if it wasn't for that moment happening, the Kensons, 7 of 9's parents would have never gotten back to with the board.
Right.
Yep.
There are so many other different type of connections.
Guinan would have never connected with the people on her world that were destroyed by it in the Nexus and all that. Yeah, it's like, jeez.
There's a lot of stuff that happened in Q Who.
No, don't get me wrong. I love him.
Take Q as an anti-hero or a villain.
He's just a separate entity.
I don't think he fits in that bucket. I also think we don't. Jury's out, frankly, still with Q as his role, and I think that's probably should remain that way. That's part of the magic of the character.
Well, I guess if we're talking about the great
Dismiss Q,
right. If we're talking about the great and wonderful Q, Mon Capitan, if you want to think Shakespearean, that particular Q, because if I remember correctly, the Q continuum. It's supposed to be the great equalizer. They're supposed to be guardians of the multiverse.
Right.
They're supposed
they know every layer inside and out, including their own dream world. Yeah.
Right. So they're supposed to be the ones that keep that balance. That's why they're not able to do. They can't just save people randomly. They can't do stuff like that. It's against what they're allowed to do.
You know, I think I disagree with you a little bit there, Curtis. I don't think there's a supposed to be about it. I think that the Q continuum has decided as a society, given their power and status and what else exists in the universe, to play a more respectful role as opposed to squashing giants, which is why Q gets in trouble from time to time.
Right.
But I don't think
he likes to play games.
I think it's an evolution of their society.
Well, they in what was it? Was in Voyager. I definitely agree because in Voyager is when they said that they call it the new era or the new age.
Yes. There's the new stuff. There's the old stuff. I've even been the Scarecrow and the Clock. Yeah, right.
The Clock, right? Exactly. Right.
For whom the bell tolls.
I was the dog for a while. I played the games, read the books, walked the road. They've come to this understanding of this pureness of understanding.
Right, and
supposed to come to.
He always says he'll meet him later, and he'll always say, "I've been stripped of this one power because I got a little out of hand. I played God a little too many times," and it was like, I've even seen other people just note how whichever captain was the best depends on who dealt with Q the best. I'm like, well, that's not fair because Cisco happened just when a punch by Janeway played a mind game with him, and Kirk didn't even ever encounter his species. So it's like Picard was just always trying to be the bigger man. Just do
nor did Archer.
I will compromise with you, but I will not kiss your ass if you want me to get out of here. And I'm not going to say please, but I will say, I could use your help, even though you're an asshole today.
Yeah, that was very.
I have a question for both of you about Q, and this has to do with the episode Tapestry. So when Picard gets impaled by some energy and it knocks out his artificial heart, he enters some kind of potential, either a dream sequence that's his neurons firing and creating something for him, or Q actually absconds with him and takes him on a merry chase to see what his life would be like had he not been impaled by the Nausicaa. I have long been questioning whether this is Picard made up Q because his brain was dying and this was something that he was looking back at his regrets and he invented Q, or if Q was actually there. What are your takes on that? Q was there or he wasn't? What do you think?
Q was there.
I'd have to rewatch it, but he probably was there.
He was there. He was there only because of, or not only because that's wrong to say, but I believe he was there just because of how Picard wouldn't do that to himself. Yeah, I don't think Picard is even Picard's.
I'm a madman.
wouldn't put him through that like that. And I think that there's something that we also can tie it back to the reason why Q's back in Picard now.
All right, I can't wait.
There has to be something so much more important about Jean-Luc Picard.
Totally. I mean, if there isn't, then what gives?
Right. So I believe that he was there because this was a pivotal moment for Picard.
Okay.
And my father and uncle always thought he was funny, and especially the actor, how delightful he and over the top he would make the role. And my mother just always loved to hate him, and I'm just like, well, that's the thing. He's pretty much just a bystander he's the barfly who can be amusing, or he can be a little too drunk, depending on what day it is.
So what do you think, Cam? Was he present in that episode, or was that something Picard made up in his dying brain?
I think he was definitely present, and because who else would confront him about what was on his mind? It wouldn't make sense otherwise,
And see, that's where I'm going to jump on this, because I have been rolling this around in my brain for quite a while, and I've come to the conclusion that it's more likely that Picard made him up, and here's why. I think that Picard, this was one of the rare moments where we actually get to see Picard's psyche from the inside, and just that he was actually a human being with real regrets. And that sequence was that sequence was Picard's absolute, complete worst possible scenario nightmare.
Right, super vulnerable moment.
I mean, absolutely rock bottom for Picard is showing up in the afterlife, and it's freaking Q. There couldn't be anything worse for Picard. So for me, as somebody who cares, and as Picard does, so deeply for his duty, for how he lives his life, for all of his choices, for all of his responsibilities. I mean, if there's a responsible person, holy cow, is it Picard? So responsible people have this nasty tendency of kicking themselves really hard where it hurts. Yep. So if you're dying on the table and your brain says, okay, let's have a look at what you did. Oh, that's not so shiny, is it? That is the worst thing that Picard could do to himself.
Right. Absolutely. And for what could have easily been just another, It's a Wonderful Life type retread, it's like, no, holiday or whatever I'm thankful for is irrelevant. Now it's me confronting the ugly side of my past and what made me who I am, that I just refuse to talk about, because he talks about it a bunch in season 2, and then they just kind of let it grip. You didn't know if anything else would come of it. It's like, yeah, no, it's very key. It's more key than we.
And I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go watch that episode again. You
totally
brought up a good point. I'm definitely gonna watch that after this, because that's a good point. It can go either way.
It could.
Because the Q can do that, but the brain can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's man.
I want an answer to that, and that's what I want from Star Trek Picard, is for Picard to say, hey Q, when I was dead or near death because I got nailed in the heart?
Right. How many different formats do I have to see it in before I figure out?
Well, we can just go to a con and ask one of them directly.
That would be
great. We have to ask a writer. We have to ask the person who wrote that episode, because they're the only person who knows.
No,
perfect. Right. Have a writer act it out. Even have a person who studied it a bunch of times, and then you have Britt Spiner do his best Patrick Stewart impression, since he's always playing pranks on him.
He does do a great job.
He's always playing pranks on him sometimes, and sometimes he would answer questions in his voice, is like until Patrick lightly pat him on the back, saying, "I see what you did there."
He's so funny, man.
But yeah, I really hope that Jean-Luc does ask Q. Eventually, they have a heart-to-heart, and Jean-Luc gets to know whether that was Q messing with him or whether he made the whole thing up.
Yeah.
I want to see that conversation.
Because he got booted down to ensign. What was he, an ensign or a lieutenant?
Ooh. Oh, Lieutenant Picard. Oh. Yeah. What was that? A man bereft of passion and imagination. I can't live my life as that man.
Right. Mm-hmm. I can't live my life as that man. Because that man was sad, my guy. That man was sad.
You could even ask Ronald D. Moore now. I mean, I'm sure you could ask him at a Battlestar panel.
Is he the lovely soul who wrote that episode? I haven't looked it up.
Yes, he is. And
my goodness. My adoration for Ronald D. Moore continues.
And Les Landau, who a lot of Next Gen and Voyager said was one of the best writers or directors and producers ever on that show, did that one. So awesome. Very cool. Yeah, and I mean, this is the best part about these episodes, is like you can keep investigating them and just seeing, even if there's something that doesn't completely add up for you, you can still just embrace these episodes. And Dennis McCarthy was always good at composing these scores. It made sense that he, composed some of the movies as well as shows like MacGyver and Sliders. Is like he just really has a way of just really belting out those trumpets. He really does.
If we're going to talk about music, I want to talk about Jerry Goldsmith, and I want to talk
about
Voyager, and I think also, and of course, I always have the doubts here that First Contact's theme. I believe he's responsible for both of those beautiful.
He and his son Joel, who he helped complete it before his death. But yeah, no, I mean, it's not a Star Trek score without Jerry. I mean, the same guy who's done countless other things. Like
he also
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I think he wrote one of the themes for Rudy, or maybe all the music for Rudy, which I think I saw the movie maybe once a million years ago, and I was like, yeah, it's a sports movie. Okay, fine. I'm a Star Trek, sci-fi gal, so that wasn't really my bucket. But I listen to film music all the time. I have a Pandora station for that, and Jerry Goldsmith is high on my list of folks to listen to.
Oh, I'm gonna actually put him down.
L.A. Confidential, The Mummy. Here's a Picardo reference. Both Gremlins movies, Total Recall, Air Force One. So yeah, it's like anyone who says I've never heard of him. Oh, you've heard of him.
You've heard him. You just don't know it.
You don't know it. Yeah. Once you start learning, you start hearing those cues, those sounds. You're like, oh,
that sounds like Jerry.
And then when they reused his music for like the Universal theme and even just movie trailers, he was tied with the guys who did the theme for Dragonheart and Waterworld. Is like Universal would just any movie they were doing just reuse his score for Rudy and use it in their other movies.
And so my wife just texted me and told me that she finished my Voyager cosplay. Very
nice. Oh. That's awesome. I was clearing out my room. I did some summer cleaning, and I gave this one red and black suit that I kid you not totally looks like a Starfleet uniform, and I gave it to a big cosplayer pal of mine. I'm like, see what you can do with this.
Right. I'm hella excited.
I need to find a connection for Voyager cosplay, because I'll tell you what, you would think this is good.
My wife.
Good, because here's what I need. I need Janeway's uniform that doesn't look like it was made with a couple rags and 50 cents.
No, we spent over $300 for the materials.
You're gonna have to go to Etsy and all those other places now, and thrift
stores. I've been looking and I haven't found what I'm looking for.
We went on Etsy, is where we got the pattern from, and then she's just sewing it all together herself.
If she's got the goods and willing to do it, I want to talk to your wife.
Hold on, give me 1 second. I'll actually bring it down to me real quick.
Ooh, looks like. Cool.
You just made a connection on this podcast. Nice.
Ship it to Barbara. I'm a big guy. Okay, so we were thinking about this. Really hard to find cosplayers for people in my size. So me and her have been mulling around the idea of creating a cosplay shop for plus size people, men and female.
That's nice. That's a good idea. While you're at it, will you do it for small adults as well? Because tiny adults have no clothes on.
Yeah, no. My wife is 5'4". Like, she's very tiny.
Right.
So,
right. So the same problem I do. Can't buy clothes.
Okay, so set this back.
And like you say, I mean, it does take a while just finding the measurements, finding what else to wear, finding other people you can pose it with so you don't go in alone, and I was so pissed when I found out how many cosplayers in my area were big NCIS and 24 fans. And I'm like, yeah, but will you actually storm with me, looking like, the various heroes or villains? Just like, where are my other guys here? And the same thing with track is like, it didn't fail. And everyone's cool with being just a random made up character, in that universe.
There you go.
A brigadier commander.
All right, let's see. Oh man, did you use velvet on that?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we didn't use the original. They wanted like some bullshit. We were like, yeah, no, that's not
the actual.
Yeah, that's not happening. So
what did you say they wanted? I couldn't hear.
What did they want?
Wool.
They wanted wool.
Yeah.
Wool?
Yeah, they wanted wool.
But man, yeah, you went.
Yeah, I would have gone with. For me, wool would be what I wanted. Mostly because
so she'll be able to do it in whatever.
Yeah, but
the interiors.
Or gray, right?
But the interior.
It's looking good.
I dig the interior because, like Barbara was saying earlier, it doesn't look like one of those all, uniform bodysuits. It does look like an actual shirt you could actually wear, you know?
No, that's how I made it. It was she started working, so she wasn't able to work in it as much. And once she got done the whole top part. So I kind of looked at it and said, I rather it just be a shirt because then I can wear it everywhere. So,
and those who get it. You can still go to a restaurant or something without being stopped by annoying people.
Yeah, exactly. You're not wrong. What'd you say? So yeah, she can definitely do that. I'll get you guys connected on Facebook.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
I'm glad something cool came out of this.
I love cosplay, man. It's what I do. So what we're doing is that she's gonna get mine's done. She got mine's done. She's gonna get hers done. And we go to music festivals every year, and we go to Renaissance fairs and stuff.
Awesome.
So now we want to be those. The music festival we're going to is called Lost Lands in Legend Valley, Ohio. It's a dinosaur themed, historic EDM concert. So we're going to go as Starfleet personnel that got hit in a transporter accident, got sent back to the Stone Age to this planet that happens to be having this kick-ass rave.
I did always get kind of a Star Trek just from the first Jurassic Park, so even better, yeah.
So we're gonna tricorders that we bought that are on the way. So
are you gonna say that they look like the Gorn?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have it on my TikTok. Don't worry, we're gonna be sitting there. We're gonna have tricorders. We're gonna be making readings of the big dinosaurs because there's over 100 dinosaur displays, and like several of them are like almost complete sizes. They're really freaking big.
That's awesome.
So
that's pretty cool.
We're gonna be doing that. Then obviously doing it at a Renaissance fair because come on.
Yeah.
Right. The Renaissance are great.
I've been participating in Renaissance fairs for many years now. We had except for COVID years, we've been I think I started doing that when I was 19 or something. But yeah, I've been rocking Renaissance fairs for a while.
Same here. I did them definitely in young adult years, and it was just interesting just seeing how everyone had their own special characters that you would commonly see every year. I'm the dungeon master, I'm the jester, I'm the king of this land.
I was the pirate. Me and my girl.
Pirates, I see a lot of. I saw plenty of people before the Game of Thrones craze, and it's like, yeah, but it's so cool how there's all these guys inventing their own. It's like someone would come there with an actual eagle, it's like that's set on their arm,
Right, because you're a badass guy who has an eagle. Like, why not?
And
where else can you show that off?
You had to choose who you wanted to go with to those things. It's like, guys, you are looking and living and breathing just like these guys, save for the time when you actually sit down and go to the fair and eat some food. But yeah, bring some napkins, bring some rubbing alcohol, and tough it out. This is fun.
They do the jousting competitions.
Yes,
you get to watch
tomato throwing.
Yeah. Right, it's just really, really cool. And it's also why I'm not surprised that Star Trek loves to go back to stuff in our time in order we do that stuff now.
Have to. It just makes. I mean, yeah, it made sense from a budget version. It's like you could be in there now, but at the same time, it's like show how it contrasts, make it more relatable. How
Why are we having what favorite episode was? What was it called? It was called A Fistful of Datas.
I love that. Let's go back to the Wild West. Oh, and then we get to show off Fritz.
The Galaxy Con guy, I forget his name. He's a comedian and a voice actor, but he'll always introduce Brent Spiner as sometimes Data, sometimes Lower, sometimes a fistful. And he and Marina will always talk about that episode. They can't get away from it. It's like one fan was like, yeah, Troy never kills anyone. She's like, oh, I killed Data a bunch in that.
Yeah. I actually liked it when Diana got the uniform. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I was very happy.
Because the Robin Hood episode was a totally different animal, and this one was more is like, okay, we're comfortable doing this stuff. We're all dressing up now.
Right. Well, it was I believe it was the Stargazer episode. No. That was not. That was God, the Stargazer.
Are you thinking of one of Riker's more sleazy
holiday episodes? It popped in my head because it's so surprising how stingy the Romulans are. They're so xenophobic. Like, no, you can't have cloaking technology because we said so, and our forehead riches are deep.
Totally.
Like it's.
What famous celebrity who was a well-known track fan are you surprised that given their status as a Trekkie, that they haven't been on one of these shows. The Allstate guy is a huge Trek guy. I'm sure there's plenty of other people.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to
So
know,
when he was on 24 and he would encounter people from that, he would actually freak out. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm about to work with so."
And the only other person I wish I knew someone that wasn't there, but Seth MacFarlane was in Enterprise.
Right, he was. So I like to assume that's Captain Mercer from Orville now.
No, right. Yeah. 100%.
You know who I'd like to see get her due in Star Trek is Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, she's a huge Trek.
Yeah.
She needs to get in on that.
You would have thought she would have been on there now.
Yeah. Man, if you could pick an actor, all the actors you like, playing in the TNG era of Star Trek, Trekkie or not, who would it be as a captain?
I would have at least Riker or Worf to get their own spinoff, which Michael Dorn's been trying for years, but they could have done. This is gonna sound cliche. They could have definitely gotten some other actor who is commonly leading a movie and just get him down there. I know Tom Hanks was supposed to be the inventor of Warp Drive, but they just kind of decided against it.
Really? I didn't know that.
In First Contact before they went with James Cromwell. But yeah, I mean,
what happened to it with James Cromwell? I love Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he did great. This is going to sound cliche, but I'm going to go with Denzel Washington.
Absolutely. I was going to say Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson would make a great
there you go. Well,
and I'm going to say Mary MacDonald. I would like to see her get.
Yes.
Absolutely.
After all the great movies she's been in and after Battlestar and Major Crimes, yes.
She would make a splendid Star Trek captain.
I mean, it was already awesome enough she was the president, but yeah,
she
needs to actually be commanding the battles and telling people, this is how you will act on the ship. And that soft voice she does. Nice.
I'll come after you with my little IT. Yeah, I could just, oh man.
You got an impression. That's what's also great about the show. Everyone has their own impression of all these characters that they've been seeing on TV every other year.
There are some people that do some stuff on a Star Trek, man. Like, what was the Rock in Star Trek?
They can kind of do what comedian and writer Dana Gould does, where he can do different impressions of people and playing other characters. Like, I don't know if you've seen that impression he does of William Shatner if he was Dr. Zetas in Planet of the Apes. The impression he does. So it's like, yeah, there's a plenty of comedians who I'm sure could totally take on this challenge if so-and-so was recasted. It's this character. Or on this kind of show.
I think that's the truth.
Oh, man.
You know, Starfleet is terrifying. Like I said,
yeah.
Have you guys ever played Star Trek Online by any chance?
Not online. I tried playing some of the Starfleet Academies, and I would play that.
You guys, I would recommend it. It's difficult. It's very intricate.
Oh, and I definitely would need.
Good.
If I ever made time for an RPG, it would definitely be first on the list. Where I
it's well, all I do is I have a 5-year-old son.
I might encounter you there.
Yeah, right. I work.
Guide me.
And I come home and I play video games because that's video games that come through around.
That's what you need.
The ships are able to create gravimetric black holes in space. Because the game is canon. Like, so this is the only reason why it amazes me. Like, so you have trilithium cobalt photon like you're talking about torpedoes that explode like everything within 100,000 mile radius. And it
bigger than the Genesis project,
right? Like, and so I'm looking at all these weapons, and like, they have ways of opening up rifts in space and sucking ships through them. Like, these are all things you can do in the game. Like, and
that's great.
I'm really looking at this, and I'm like, yo, hold on. This is terrifying.
Yeah,
like because you're encountering a bunch of geniuses.
Did they build on how credits are done? Something they always kind of imply, but never really show on this.
No, they don't because I don't have money in the game. So the way everything works is like a side money thing. But the only real money that they have for currency in Star Trek, because Earth has no currency. So I have no idea how like they get their things on the show. Like I'm like, how do they get contraband? Because William T. Riker is the king of contraband.
Right.
I suspect it's a favor economy.
I'm sure
that, you owe people favors and you do people favors.
Yeah,
I agree. But that ain't going well with the Ferengi. Ferengi don't give a damn about no favors.
Well, you can't tell me he didn't go to Quark's bar and buy something illegal, technically. Yeah.
Right. Well, they have to have gold pressed platinum.
Mm-hmm.
That's the currency. So how
makes sense.
So if you're like, can they and I don't believe it can be replicated.
No, that was the point of it, is that platinum couldn't be replicated.
Right. Not just anyone can have it. It's kind of got like a password protected account before that was a thing. So yeah.
Right. So it's like, how are these? I agree with you, Barbara. It has to be a favorite thing. At this point, it's like, it's who I am. I'll be able to help you later. But some of the smaller stuff, like the Ferengi or getting a drink at Quark's bar,
I'll have to take you up on that challenge once in a while. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. As well, Cisco says, "I'm a human. I don't have money, and yet Dad has a couple strips of gold pressed platinum hanging around."
Well,
so.
Right.
And I have a confession.
They're still eating. Like, they don't eat at their replicators. They choose to go to little bars.
Well, and I always have a confession, and this is what I always, Star Wars is good for action, but Trek, I always just I wanted to just get a gist of, you have the communicator, on your suit. And when I went to this one putt-putt center that used to be open back when it had it, I would always, before we went and got all hyped up, we'd go into the arcades, before we go and do putt-putt golf. And I would play the shit out of this Star Trek Voyager game. And I was just, again, blasting all the, mutant aliens and the Borg and just like how to get out of the way before, their shields adapt. And I feel like you could walk around and just get a sense of which place is the, elevator in the future, and which one's, the sealed off deck, which one's the holodeck, which one's the dining room, and which one's the escape shuttles.
Well, it's the start. Man, I definitely play to play the Star Trek Online. It's like, so for TNG, it's all after the fact. So
yeah, it's still active. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like some of the Gamma Quadrant episodes talk about Kira becoming Kai. So she's Kai Kira. Like that's crazy. And she went to Starfleet, became a captain too.
Well, I'm just glad they didn't pass up that option, because so many other fandoms and franchises did. They just flat out said, "Oh, I don't think it's becoming as relevant. I'm not seeing the numbers." And it's like, fortunately enough, someone was picking someone's brain at Paramount, saying, "Hey, milk it or not. There's a fandom out there
that wants it." I agree.
But I'm glad that it's still existing after all these years. When everyone just seemed like.
Party second. I am grateful that Trek exists and is still being made, and even if I don't like every single thing that ever comes out of Trek, and don't necessarily, like we've mentioned, everybody likes bits and everybody doesn't like bits. There's nothing wrong with that. But I am so grateful that Trek is being made, and that looking into the future is still happening, and that there are people still paying attention to what this could be for all of us on planet Earth.
I've even had to tell people. Yeah, I've even had to tell people, is like, at least get a Blu-ray of the latest shows, or discounted, or do a 3-month trial of, Paramount. And I've had trouble convincing people. They just think, oh, it's a money-saving technique. I'm like, well, yeah, it is. Because guess what? If you look at the history of all these shows, they almost always featured, low ratings or creative, gaps in the road. Sci-fi doesn't play well on TV. People just don't tune in. And sometimes it's the networks screwing around saying, hey, let's have it be on Friday. I'm like, no one's watching it on Friday unless it's something, that you've hyped up enough, like Fridays used to definitely be we'd watch reruns of Star Trek, and then on other night Fridays it'd be Stargate and Battlestar Galactica all night on Sci-Fi Channel. So it was like, yeah, and very much part of everyone's world. And it seems like everyone's afraid to just, you can have it all. I still have a cable box, but I don't fault anyone who cut their cable box years ago and just does streaming. It's like, choose how you want to watch stuff, and don't deny yourself a good time.
I don't watch it though, but it's up there.
Well,
I don't watch it though.
Don't deny yourself a good time.
You're not wrong. You're right. There is definitely good TV, but every time I turn it on, every now and again, a commercial. Oh nope, that's why.
I've had to tell my sister that several times. I will watch it if it's recorded, and I think that's the other problem too. A lot of people would get cable, but they wouldn't get the DVR. I'm like, you need to be able to record this stuff. There's some good stuff on in the morning hours. That's how I kind of got into Deep Space Nine and Voyager. You know, they start showing reruns on TV One and Spike in the morning hours. I'm like, I gotta get to college.
Getting back to what you were saying about being happy and glad about more Trek, I got really lucky, man. I can only imagine, like you guys had watched it when you were in the beginning. It got to Voyager, then you had to wait.
Yes, there's a long wait.
Yeah, there's a
very long wait. I thought Star Trek was over. I thought it was gone. Because as a kid,
that's crazy.
My dream as a kid growing up watching Voyager was to go write for Star Trek, and then knowing that I was 13 and 14 and that I was not going to get hired right then as a writer, thinking Star Trek will be gone by the time I am an adult and able to go have this career. So I gave up right then and there, and now there is Star Trek, and now I'm thinking, well, I've got a script sitting over there on my whiteboard.
I would love to help you. I'd love to help you make a web series.
Yeah,
fan films are still allowed, and
I'm not making fan films though. This is a go big or go home. This is going to get made by Paramount for real, or it's not going to happen. I'm not making fan films, guaranteed.
I have faith in you. You can do it.
Pick a Kiva Goldsman, Alex Kurtzman, or even Jerry Taylor or Brendan Braga's brains. I'm sure they got some person.
You know, you need to go to either a convention or you need to go to the not this year because next year, the cruise.
They're bringing the cruise back.
Yeah, it's happening next year. It's already sold out.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so me and my wife are planning on going 2 years from now. Once the tickets are available. So so that's one place, man. You want to have a small envelope with a small description of your thing, your contact information. Just hand to put them in their pocket.
Maybe go after the main showrunner, Kirsten Bayer. I'm sure she'd love to get, hire some staff writers.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Man, you do that. Don't forget me. Write me a letter. That'd be some cool stuff.
Because that was a thing back in the mid 2000s. Like,
yeah, it was.
People would say, writers who were looking for someone to fill some void in between the important stuff on something like Jericho or Lost or 24.
There's always filler episodes.
They would go to the fan fiction sites and they'd be like, oh, this guy knows the show better than any of us. Let's get him for an episode or a producer credit because he contributed,
Fans are amazing.
Fans are great. And I think Trek is, I've even had other pals of my brother who's not as big a movie buff, and he's like, yeah, I've never had any awful incidents with Trekkies. I've had some bad experiences with Aliens and Star Wars fans, but not Trekkies.
Star Wars fans are crazy. I don't know what's up with that either.
I think everyone just likes to argue. And Trekkies, they know arguing is illogical, so stop it.
Right, it's no point to argue. Ain't that the truth? Illogical.
Right.
My friends, we have reached my witching hour. I need to feed myself and go about my evening. I have a whole bunch of projects and a bunch of people who are calling me, so
I want to promote your thing real fast. You want to promote your shows? You want to promote your shows real fast before we jump off?
Yeah, I totally do. All right. So I would love anybody who's hearing this to come and join us in our community. We have a website and we have a Facebook group and we're on Twitter. So it's called Watch Trek, Look Forward. And what we do is we have watch parties and then we discuss shows and we occasionally run conventions. They're also going to start very soon having what we're going to call Star Trek Science Sundays. And we're going to have actual scientists come in, pick an episode, and then give us a little talk, and then have an opportunity to talk about it with real people who are actually making science happen in the world. The whole idea is we use Star Trek as a foundation to build a bright future on purpose that we create, that we want. So we're a community who's going to do that, and we're going to have some fun along the way. So that's what we do. So you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. We've got a website, watchtrek-lookforward.com. Pretty simple.
And the Gmail's there, so yeah, I definitely want to reach out and join that crew.
Yeah. Come right along. We'll be happy to have you.
And it's only Sundays, or is it?
Oh, well, so we do mission events once a month. Those are we pick a theme and then a couple of episodes to go along with that theme. We watch them and then we talk about them. And spend usually about an hour and a half talking about what we're learning and what inspires us about Star Trek after having watched the episodes. We do that once a month, and then coming up on we're going to do one Sunday a month. So we'll end up with about 2 events per month that are official-ish events, and we'll do the science stuff on Sundays. But we also do just rando Star Trek watch. Like this afternoon, I had a hankering, and I said, I got an hour, so I got on our group chat and said, hey, who's around? Here's a Zoom link. Let's watch some Trek together. And, we did. And we do that whenever.
Oh, it's all on Zoom? Nice.
That's
yeah,
cool.
we do this over Zoom. And
I'm still trying to figure out that and Scener, which is another one. Are you able to like somehow share the screen with others?
No, that would be illegal, and we would get in big trouble.
Gotcha. So we're watching it and we're
coordinated.
Gotcha.
We're coordinated over Zoom. We are all in the Zoom chat together, so we can commentate as we watch and be together. But everybody watches on their own, and they're responsible for their behavior online or streaming or on their DVDs or whatever they like. And we have nothing to do with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep ourselves safe from bad accidents.
Yeah. All the other guys trying to ruin it. Ruin it. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Like, yeah. We don't want to infringe on anybody's copyright. We're here to have a good time and to, essentially promote Star Trek in the world. We want to share it with everybody, not end up having some awful mistake and having a problem legally. Right.
Don't give those guys ideas. This is also fun because prepping for this episode, I did some research on like getting some good kick-ass trailers, and it's like these are some ones like, oh man, 90s retro remastered videotapes of the first series show's premiere. It's like that was the first promo everyone saw back in the day. So this is why we do these podcasts. It's fun going back in time doing film history. Yeah, I'll definitely.
So thanks for having me. I very much appreciated it, and this has been fun, and it's been great to get to know the two of you. And
you rocked it.
What a pleasant way to spend an afternoon.
Absolutely. And Curtis, I'll let you promote your TikTok, and then I'll let Barbara wrap this up.
My captain's handle on TikTok. My name is @CaptainLeon767. And all I really do on there is just talk about Trek we do on here. I act out different scenes, different monologues, and different cosplays. And we also watch Trek while I go live. And so that's it. Just a nice, fun community.
That's awesome, Curtis. Cool.
Yeah, keep sharing links here, and I'll keep promoting you guys.
Sounds good, Cam. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try...
They must be destroyed on sight!
The new Podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight!
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies. I heard you like to hustle. I heard you like podcasts. Well, guess what? There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle. Damn right. Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us. But do we actually talk about the movie? Most of the time. Tangents galore. Yes. So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We may talk about video games, music. Yeah, that's the big one, music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there. Yes. Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ. Yes. I am the master storyteller of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers, the Google Play, Apple Podcasts,
what else?
Podbean,
what else?
Podcast Addict,
goddamn,
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ. We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair say
yeah.
all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
If you take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen and give them a podcast, what do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How
did
you watch this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. Whether one last plot holes or gratuitous movies, it's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy at eilfm.podbean.com.
Welcome to Who Was She podcast. I am your host, Tara Jabari. After a decade working in documentaries, marketing, and all things digital media, I found that podcasting is a strong medium to share stories. After years of producing for others, I decided to start my own biographical podcast. Who Was She will focus on the life of a woman throughout Baha'i history. The first season is about Lydia Zamenhof. Lydia's story explores the subjects of the power of language and faith. Her father invented the universal language Esperanto, and she came from a Jewish family and became a Baha'i. She grew up during World War I and was killed during World War II in a concentration camp, despite heroic efforts to save her life. How can one person's life intersect with so many others, connect across borders, and inspire a biography which inspired this podcast? Over the next few weeks, I will share her story with you and the lives that were most affected by her and those who affected her life as well. They include her father, Ludwig Zamenhof, her spiritual mother, American journalist Martha Root, and the Baha'i German soldier Fritz Mako, who worked for the resistance undercover while having to serve the Nazi Party. I want to thank the author Wendy Heller and George Ronald Publishing for their blessing to let me use Heller's biography, Lydia, The Life of Lydia Zamenhof, Daughter of Esperanto, as a main and instrumental resource for this podcast. So please subscribe and learn about this amazing woman who traveled through 3 continents in an effort to bring unity through the power of language. You can also find more information on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Who Was She Podcast. Music was composed and performed by Sam Red. I am your host, Tara Jabari. Join us next time as we begin our journey about Lydia Zamenhof.
Hi everybody, it's Mac Jackson. I wanted to invite you to a new site called the Forever Adventure Network. This website has everything. Pictures, videos, blogs. There's original music by Harmony Constant, 2 podcasts. One is the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson, his iconic roles, and how it's influenced our lives. There's episode discussions, interviews, and life conversations. The second podcast is the Never Gets Old podcast, where we celebrate all the best things that we love in life, from TV, movies, music, and comics. The site is also the home for the MacGyver SG-1 audio series, an ongoing adventure series that continues the adventures of MacGyver and SG-1. There are also multiple stores to choose from for all of your pop culture and adventure needs. Come on by and check us out today. And thanks for joining the adventure.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The 2 lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VDClinicPod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VDClinicPod. Or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
Hi there. It's Heather from the Watching Netflix Without You podcast. Did you know that there are over 1,200 Netflix original feature films and documentaries? And that number is only growing. So I've made it my mission to watch as many as I possibly can. Then, with a delightful guest or guests, disclaimer, more often than not my brother Ryan, we spend an episode rating, reviewing, and discussing a film at length. The first half of every episode is spoiler-free for those who haven't seen it yet, and in the second half, after a very clear spoiler warning, we dive into it. And that's really about it. You can listen to Watching Netflix Without You on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.